My name is Marianne Isbell. I'm from the UK. Too often people tell you how wonderful surrogacy is, what a beautiful gift and what a positive experience it will be. Then you hear about the terrible surrogate who dares to ask for her child back. It is an all too common deception in our modern fairy tale world. I believed that fairy tale when I agreed to help a family member by carrying her child. At the time, I was happy to agree. I did not want, and I did not need to be paid. There was no money involved. I made it clear that the child would be conceived using her egg and that I would be allowed to see and have contact with the child that I would give birth to. Those were my conditions. So I agreed to become a surrogate mother for my cousin. She was more like a sister to me. She had been a significant presence in my life. We're a vital part of each other's lives from childhood. I knew about her cancer. A few years ago, that would have been in 2012, she told me she had created embryos. One day, she came to my house with her sister, who's also my cousin, and she said, "Can you help me?" I told her that I would only help if she let me see the child, my condition. She looked me in the eye and said, "Absolutely, there's trust, we're family." You know, not for a minute did I think I'd actually need to get a lawyer and write a contract. I think when she asked me, she knew I had no choice but to say yes. I think she exploited our relationship. As further information came out afterwards, it appeared that they had looked into surrogacy abroad, but it was too expensive. So they were looking for a cheaper alternative, and they kind of saw me as, "She'll do it for free." I was told, "There is trust, you'll be the child's godmother." Those words would later come back to haunt me. I don't believe she knows what trust means. She made all sorts of promises to brainwash and coerce me into helping her. It was a gestational surrogacy. They used IVF with their own biological material. I remember lots of injections and visits to the clinic for very obtrusive physical examinations. It was a very procedural process, which was quite challenging, both emotionally and physically, to have to go through all of that. I had 2 normal, non-assisted pregnancies of my own. The over-medication that I was given was purely to help these 2 people. The experience was bad enough, having somebody else to dictate what medical procedures you endure, how you should give birth, what you should eat was awful. The list goes on. This affected me from the beginning of the pregnancy, and yet, in the UK, there is no specialised support for women going through surrogate pregnancies. In 2014, at the time of delivery, the commissioning father wasn't present. It would just be her and my partner. Everything went smoothly. I felt in control. The hospital saw me as the mother. So my wishes were taken into account. Went as I wanted to do things. It didn't matter what she wanted. However, they wanted me to have an elective C-section. I refused, and my midwife said that that wasn't good practice. If someone doesn't need one, they shouldn't have one. They tried to force pressure on me by saying it would be better for you. I had a normal delivery. I remember there was some confusion at the hospital, even though they'd been told that it was a surrogacy, and social services got involved. I thought, this is awful. I'm trying to have a baby, and I've got suspicious social services interviewing me. The father came in while they were doing the birth contact, and that was fine. They took the baby. They told me I could go home. However, the hospital staff didn't agree. They wanted to see me walk out with the baby, carrying it according to their policy. I remember having to carry the car seat with the baby in it through the hospital in full view of the medical staff. and we had to do a strange exchange in the hospital car park where I handed over the child, because legally the hospital didn't want to be responsible, or was not responsible for the child when it was outside. After the birth, I was presented with all sorts of legal documents that I was forced to sign. The timing was awful. Recovering from a birth and then training your body for 9 months to believe you are not the mother of a child, and then you're presented, and every surrogate woman has to do that, and then you're presented with a document stating you're the mother, and you're forced to sign it. I was threatened financially and with legal consequences if I didn't sign. This is the dark side of surrogacy in the UK that nobody hears about, because most women are given gag orders to prevent them from talking about it. No payment was made. I was compensated for time off work. They bought me maternity clothes, reimbursed me for transportation to the clinic. They wanted to pay for food, but I declined. I didn't want to feel controlled by having somebody tell me what to eat. I remember my dear cousin saying, "Would like to pay for a kitchen for you." And I said, "No, I'm helping you." To be receiving free gifts makes it feel like I'm being paid for a service. I said no. The court case started in 2014. It lasted 2 years. I didn't start it. It was initiated by the parents because they wanted a parental order. A parental order legally transfers parental responsibility from the surrogate to the intended parents and ends the surrogate's rights. I had no idea about any of this. I didn't even know there was going to be a court case. I just thought I'd hand the child over and that was it. None of this was made clear to me beforehand. Nobody told me. I gave birth and suddenly all the legal stuff was forced upon me. I was not in a good position to sign. I refused to sign and everything went downhill from that point onwards. So they attempted to obtain my consent against my will at the court, exploiting my mental health, which was damaged irreparably as a result of this experience. However, through grit and determination, including psychiatric assessments proving I was capable of giving consent, I was permitted to remain involved. Yet still they continued to try and shut me out. The Children's Social Services even tried to use the case of a deceased surrogate mother, saying we can use that in this case where someone died, pretend that's happening here. It was appalling. In the end, I had no choice but to sign the parental order. The girl was born in 2014. I have never seen her since. I was promised on multiple occasions during the court case that I would see her, but each time the appointment was cancelled the day before. They were playing games. I believe the promises were only for the benefit of the court. They hinted that they used me as a cheap commercial surrogate because they hinted they used me as a cheap commercial surrogate, but if it hadn't been for their legal costs, it would have been completely free. They constantly try to remove any trace of me from their child's life, which is another reason why they need my silence. I believe their behaviour stems from their resentment of me as the child's birth mother, and that's me being generous. I've now been diagnosed with complex PTSD. I underwent EMDR to alleviate some of my trauma resulting from the surrogacy. I have a deep fear of hospitals, children, babies, which does not work well with my career in education. The damage done to me will never be repaired. Constant panic attacks and a fear and distrust of people serve as constant reminders. But this impact is not only me, it's also my children. They took on the role of parents because I wasn't able to take care of them. This happened 10 years ago. And for the first 5 years, my children did not have a mother. They were taken away from me and sent to live with their father, which was traumatic for everyone. The judge realised that this was not helpful to anyone, and they were returned to my care. Over the last 5 years, we've come together as a family. We've rebuilt our relationships, but for the first 5 years, we were a broken family. So in trying to help another family, they broke mine. We talk about women's rights as if they're universal, but surrogacy actually means you're choosing which woman deserves more rights. That's inequality. If leaders and lawmakers care so much about women's rights, why are they continuing to erode the rights of surrogate women? Thank you.